Hello, I'm Abby, or Abigail.
And I'm Rebecca.
And who's that?
And this is my kitten, David.
And we are going to be reading this book called Adoniram Judson. And who is it by? It's by a lady called Sharon Hambrick. Adoniram Judson, as it says, is God's man in Burma. He's a missionary. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 1, A Surprise for Father.
Goodbye, Father.
Adoniram Judson waved his small arms above his head and ran down the dirt path. Father turned in the saddle to wave farewell to his son.
I know you are just 3 years old, Adoniram,
He said, smiling.
but I am counting on you to be a good boy and to help your mother.
He pressed his heels firmly into the horse's sides, and he cantered off down the lane.
I will, Father,
Adoniram said.
I will be very good.
He stood in the lane until Father was out of sight beyond the elm trees at the end of the path. He started to cry, wiped a hand across his eyes, then felt Mama's hand on his shoulder.
Come inside, son,
Mama said. She led him up the stairs and across the wooden porch.
I have the most wonderful idea.
Adoniram followed Mama inside the parsonage, trying to keep up with her by taking long steps. As they passed Father's study, he stopped and peeked in. He looked up at the sturdy wooden bookshelves and the hundreds of books that sat there. A large black book lay open on Father's desk. Next to the book was a small pile of papers. He knew that the large book was the Bible and that the papers were notes for Father's next sermon. Adoniram wanted to touch the Bible, but he knew it would be wrong.
You must never go into my study without permission,
Father always said. Adoniram suddenly remembered Mama's promise of a wonderful idea. She had gone into the kitchen. Maybe she had made a special treat for him. He ran after Mama to the kitchen. He stood on his tiptoes to look at the table top. There was no sign of cookies or a cake. He scrambled up onto a stool and pulled at Mama's apron.
What is it, Mama?
He asked. He opened his eyes wide and smiled broadly.
What is the wonderful idea? Is it a treat for me?
Mama poured herself a cup of tea and sipped it thoughtfully. She looked down at Adoniram with a smile.
No, it's not for you. It's a surprise for Father, but I know you will like it very much too.
Adoniram winced. He remembered the time he had brought Father a handful of dead bugs.
Father doesn't like surprises,
He said.
He will like this one.
Mama said.
I promise. He will like it very much.
Mama set her teacup down on the table, untied her apron, and took Adoniram's hand.
Come with me, son,
she said. He was surprised when she walked with him straight into Father's study and sat down in Father's best chair. She took the big Bible from the desk and laid it open on her lap. Then she put her arm out to Adoniram and pulled him close beside her.
You will learn to read, Adoniram,
she said. She ruffled his hair.
I will teach you. You will be able to read a little bit of God's word to Father when he returns from his trip.
Adoniram nestled for his head on his mother's shoulder. As he stood beside her, he looked down at the open Bible. There were black marks on the white pages, but they meant nothing to him. Could he really learn to read what it said before Father returned?
Mama,
he said.
I am too little to read. You are small,
she said, smiling.
but you are a very smart boy.
Adoniram listened to Mama's lessons. He studied the alphabet and learned the letters A and B and C. He learned to recognize a few words, but some were harder, and he had to puzzle out the sound one by one. After a few days, he was able to understand a little bit of the chapter he was studying.
Is Father coming home today?
He asked.
Not today.
Mama said. The next day he could read a few more words.
Is Father coming home today? Soon,
Mama said. The days passed, and one day Adoniram ran into the kitchen, the large Bible clutched under his arm.
Mama!
He put the book down carefully on the kitchen table and looked up at her with shining eyes.
Mama, will you listen, please?
I can read the whole chapter.
Oops.
Oops.
Sorry, continue.
Mama rushed over to him.
I knew you could do it,
she said. She gave Adoniram a big hug. Just then the front door slammed shut. Adoniram had not even heard it open. He looked up, gasped in surprise, and jumped off Mama's lap.
Father, you're home,
he said, laughing and jumping.
I have the most wonderful surprise for you.
Adoniram put his finger on the first word of the chapter and began to read. He read every word of the chapter, making only a few mistakes. When he had finished, he looked up into his father's face. Father's mouth hung open, and his eyes were wide. At first he said nothing. Then he whispered.
You can read?
He picked Adoniram up, swung him around, and said it again, much louder.
You can read.
That night, Mama came to tuck Adoniram into bed. He sat up and twined his arms around her neck.
We did it,
he said.
We surprised Father.
Later on, he heard Father and Mama talking to each other in the hall outside his bedroom door.
Our son is going to be a great man,
Father said.
A child who can read can become anything. He could become a doctor or a lawyer or even the president of the United States.
Adoniram did not know what the president was, but he knew he had pleased his father, and that was the very best thing in the world.
End of chapter 1.